The film opens with the jarring image of a man named Randy writhing in pain from a gunshot wound, while a woman, Jace, stands over him holding a gun. The narrative then flashes back to a day earlier, showing Jace arriving in England to visit her sister, Laura, whom she hasn't seen in a long time. Laura reveals she has planned an adventurous trip for Jace. After hours of travel, the sisters finally reach a remote cabin deep in the woods. After freshening up, they prepare to go hiking in the nearby forest. They decide to have a running race, during which Laura teaches her sister some techniques for better running. Afterward, they head to a nearby lake for a swim but decide against it because of the cold, opting instead to put their clothes back on. Suddenly, a pickup truck carrying a group of men arrives unexpectedly and begins harassing them. Randy, the leader of the group, invites them to hang out, but Laura refuses, which makes Jace increasingly uncomfortable. The sisters quickly leave, and the menacing men soon depart as well. Later, Jace appears very distressed, prompting Laura to ask what's bothering her. Jace confides in her sister that she recently got out of a bad relationship and that the men reminded her of her past struggles. However, she mentions she is doing better now and has started taking self-defense classes. Laura tells her she is proud and then gives Jace their father's necklace. Jace hesitates to take it since it was a gift to Laura from their father, but her sister insists. That night, Laura is preparing dinner and realizes they are out of wine, so she asks Jace to go into town to get some beverages. Jace agrees and leaves the cabin, while her sister continues working in the kitchen. A short time later, a car pulls up outside and a knock comes at the door. As soon as Laura opens it, the same threatening men they saw earlier force their way inside. Laura is terrified. She tells them to leave, but Randy wants to know where the other girl is. Laura lies, saying they had an argument and she left, adding that her friends are coming to pick her up. She says they could arrive at any moment, but Randy doesn't believe her. Meanwhile, Jace is on her way back home. She calls her sister, but Randy prevents Laura from answering. This heightens Jace's concern, and she gets a bad feeling, so she begins to drive faster. Inside, Randy warns Laura that she must cooperate and do as they say, or things will get ugly. But she refuses to be intimidated and immediately punches him, breaking his nose. She grabs a knife to defend herself, and when one of the men attempts to approach her, she bravely stabs him in the leg. Randy is shocked and impulsively shoots her in the back of the head, killing her instantly. The thugs panic, so Randy orders a man named Kent to dispose of the body and call him when the other girl arrives. Kent is left with the corpse while the others leave. A little later, Jace arrives, alarmed to see the pickup truck driving away from the cabin. When she finally reaches the house, she is horrified to see her sister's lifeless body. She breaks down, but then hears a noise from the bathroom, so she hides. A while later, Kent comes out with a shovel to bury the body, but he can't bring himself to do it. He takes a beer from the kitchen and starts drinking, unaware that Jace is watching him. In a fit of rage, she takes a knife from the dining table, stabs him in the neck, and kills him, then vows to kill every one of the culprits. Jace then determinedly sharpens the knife and washes the blood from her hands. She drags her sister's body from the living room and puts on the necklace Laura gave her. After this, Jace gathers every weapon she can find, puts them in the car, and drives away. A short distance away, the four thugs are gathered, possessing stolen goods and money. While Randy is in his car tending to his broken nose, his men discuss what happened, with one of them suggesting Randy shouldn't have killed the girl. He proposes they leave without him and notes that Kent should have called back an hour ago, suggesting something might be wrong. The group decides to make a run for it without Randy, but one of them objects and urges the others to have courage. A while later, the man Laura had wounded goes into another room. This is when Jace arrives. She uses a pair of scissors to repeatedly stab him until he dies. Following this, Jace moves to the other three men, swinging a chainsaw in an act of revenge. They try to stop her but fail as she begins to inflict wounds on each of them. She leaps, gravely wounding one man with the chainsaw, disemboweling and killing him. Randy is still in his car, listening to loud music, oblivious to the commotion inside. Elsewhere, a man attacks Jace, but she quickly overpowers and wounds him. She also gets injured, but she doesn't back down, killing the attackers one by one. Suddenly, Randy hears the noise and realizes what is happening. He enters the barn and is horrified to see his men brutally murdered. Jace takes a weapon from him, forcing the terrified man to run away. Jace then picks up the gun and kills the last remaining man. Meanwhile, Randy is walking alone on a desolate road when a car pulls up beside him. Inside are three men, Louis, Dave, and Charlie, who are his friends. Randy gets into the car, and they drive off, but Jace spots them from the woods and decides to follow. A while later, the thugs stop near Jace's car and smash it up, finding numerous weapons inside. Randy looks through the car and finds her passport, which he pockets. He then orders his men to slash her car tires so she can't follow them anymore. Randy mentions he had told a man named Jacob about the girls, but Louis questions why they would involve that scumbag. Randy says the scumbag is the one who has made them a lot of money and, moreover, he'll be able to find the girl who is hiding somewhere in the woods. The thugs then decide to return to the cabin to hide the body, but Jace, who has been observing them, accidentally makes a noise, which raises their suspicions. They approach the woods cautiously, and Randy claims what happened to her sister was just an accident. He says it's not too late to be friends and asks her to come forward, unaware that she is now right behind him. Jace slams a rock into his head and runs away. The other thugs chase her, and Randy screams in pain. A while later, Jace, hiding behind a bulldozer, runs into Lewis. She points the gun at him. Terrified, he pleads that he doesn't want to die, promising not to tell the others about her, to which Jace replies that her sister didn't want to die either, before knocking him unconscious and running off. A while later, Randy finds Lewis, who lies that he slipped and didn't see the woman anywhere. Furious, Randy orders him to get back into the car, saying they need to proceed with the plan. Meanwhile, Jace also arrives at the car to follow them but finds its tires slashed. The thugs then go to the young women's cabin, but they can't find the body, which upsets Randy. He orders Charlie and Dave to dig a grave and tells Lewis to search for the body. In the meantime, Jace is running through the woods. She becomes exhausted and can no longer continue. She recalls the running techniques Laura taught her and is renewed with confidence. Later, as the thugs are digging the grave, Jace creeps up behind them and knocks Dave down. She points the gun at the others, but Randy quickly calls out her name, revealing he has informed his friends who are police officers. As she tries to shoot them, Lewis sneaks up from behind and overpowers her, and they knock her unconscious. A while later, Jace wakes up inside the house, bound at her hands and feet. She manages to untie her legs but struggles with her hands. She then opens a nearby drawer and finds a small knife, which she uses to cut the restraints and free herself. Soon after, hearing someone approaching, she pretends to still be tied up and unconscious. It is Lewis, who calls her beautiful and tries to turn her over to assault her. At this moment, Dave and Charlie hear noises downstairs. They go upstairs to check. They hear Lewis groan. Inside, Jace is quietly finishing him off. She opens the door and quickly stabs Dave, who falls down the stairs. Jace and Charlie fight, but he is too strong for her to handle. At the same time, the wounded Dave takes the knife from his leg and slowly climbs the stairs. Suddenly, Jace savagely stabs Charlie's eyes, and he screams in pain. Using a defense move she learned, she presses on his neck and strangles him until he dies. But Dave reaches her then and shoots her in the shoulder. He hits her with the gun and starts brutally smashing her head against the table, but the enraged woman elbows his abdomen and kills him by hitting his head with an alarm clock. After all this, the exhausted and wounded Jace sits on the stairs. She feels like giving up, but Laura's voice echoes in her mind, urging her to keep going. So, Jace gathers her courage, pours liquor on her wound, and painfully removes the bullet. A little later, Randy returns with his cruel boss, Jacob, and 3 more thugs. Jacob tells the 3 men with him to stay in the car, saying it won't take long. He reassures Randy not to worry about his broken nose, saying he knows the best plastic surgeons. The 2 enter the house, but Jacob gets angry seeing his men dead. He scolds Randy for making this mess, warning that this chaos is not good for their business, but Randy insists everything is under control. Next, the 2 go upstairs but are alarmed when they can't find Jace anywhere. They hear the sound of gas leaking from a cylinder in a closet. Jace locks the door from the outside at this moment. Randy tries to shoot the door, but Jacob warns that it will cause an explosion. Jace shoves clothes under the door to prevent the leak, trapping them both inside. Meanwhile, outside, the 3 men worry that their boss hasn't returned, and one of them decides to go look. Inside, Randy and Jacob are struggling to breathe as the room fills with gas. Jacob tries to fix the cylinder, but the valve is broken. Downstairs, one of the thugs comes looking for the boss but finds no one. He hears a noise from a closet and attempts to investigate. Suddenly, Jace brutally takes his life. At the same time, the helpless Randy bangs violently on the door, which is finally heard by the 2 men outside. They enter the house with their weapons, but Jace is waiting for them with a gun. She warns them not to move, but when one of them approaches, she pulls the trigger, but the gun is out of bullets, so she hits him with it. She then smashes a flower pot over the next man's head and engages in a fierce fight with them. Meanwhile, upstairs, Randy is struggling, and Jacob tries to use a sharp tool to pick the lock. He finally gets it open, but by then, Randy has lost consciousness. Downstairs, Jace bravely fights the 2 men and overpowers them. She kills one man by hitting him on the head with a sculpture. The other man gets up and tries to escape, but Jace throws a knife straight into his heart, ending his life. All these killings deeply affect Jace, and she begins to cry. Just then, Jacob arrives and tasers her from behind. He puts a chain collar around her neck and commands her to follow him to the car like a good puppy. But Jace refuses and spits at him, which prompts him to taser her again. He tries to drag her, but she resists and snatches the chain from his hand. She throws the collar away, and the 2 then engage in a violent fight. He is stronger than her, and she is exhausted and wounded from the night's events. However, at one point, Jace manages to grab the taser, use it on him, and slam his head into the sink. This is when Randy comes downstairs and accidentally shoots and kills Jacob. Seizing the opportunity, Jace runs, and Randy follows her. To his surprise, Jace gets into a car and drives it into him, gravely injuring him. Randy gets up in pain and runs into a nearby barn. Jace shoots him in the shoulder, and he falls to the ground. But before she can finish him off, he kicks her and grabs her hair, pulling her to the ground. The two engage in a brutal fight. However, Randy overpowers Jace and brutally beats her. He taunts her, saying he killed her sister quickly, but he is going to make her death slow and painful. Randy begins to strangle her, but in that moment, all the memories of her sister give Jace a surge of courage. In a desperate move, she grabs her sharp necklace and stabs it into Randy's neck, forcing him to let go of her. The furious woman stabs him multiple times while screaming and cursing at him. The terrified villain begs her to stop and offers her all the money he has, but Jace doesn't care and simply takes a cigarette from her pocket and smokes it. She then watches Randy slowly bleed to death, after which she remembers her sister and breaks down crying. When the villain finally dies, she pours gasoline over his body and sets it on fire. The next morning, Jace sits near Laura's dead body, distraught. She is wearing the necklace her sister gave her, and the film ends with a shot of her sitting there in anguish. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this.